Hello? Hello? Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
I was like, I think I'm muted. I'm muted. You might not be.
That
Hello,
was Wanda.
everyone.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Tiffany. Happy Rake Appreciation Society Day. And it's a special one because it's our 2-year anniversary.
Happy anniversary, Crystal.
Happy anniversary, Jen.
Oh my gosh. So look at us now.
Oh, hi, Linda. Hi, Stacy.
Hello. Give people time. I have to say, I shared with Crystal a couple messages because this is the first book we ever buddy read together 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I went all the way back in our Discord server because I was looking for something else. I was looking up something else that we've talked about before that I needed for something that I won't talk about. So I was looking it up. And then I was like, oh my God, did we really? This is when we read Sea of Ruin. And it was like October of 2020 is when we read it together. And I was like, oh my God, that's crazy.
It is crazy because and the crazy thing is like we talk almost every day on Instagram, like pretty much every day. And I completely forgot that we started talking on Discord. Like that was how.
Yeah, and then we used Voxer because I was already using that, which I liked those because they're long and it doesn't get messed up. But nobody uses Voxer anymore. And I mean, if only Instagram would do longer than 1 minute, but I understand why. But still, wish I did long enough. But anyway,
well, shall we say? I don't know. I put you on the spot right now. What has been some of your most memorable books that we've had, that we've picked?
Oh, that's a good question.
I should have put a list together of questions. Originally I wanted to have this be like a celebration, and then of course life just got busy, and I'm like, we'll just wing it. We'll just talk about the book and we'll just wing it.
Well, maybe we can plan it for next month. We can do an early Christmas party.
That'd be fun.
We'll do something. Maybe we'll do a giveaway or something like that.
Let's do that.
We'll do that.
We'll have a party in December.
Yeah.
It'll be a party.
It'll be fun. No. I mean, it was memorable. That's for sure.
It was. That, that one has been probably my favorite discussion.
Yeah.
I felt like that was, and I know it's tough because there were it's tough to hear stuff about a favorite book, but I thought that was such a good discussion,
Yeah. Well, it's always good when people can, I mean, that's why we do this, specifically why Crystal and I do this, is because that's what brought us together, is talking about books, but also to have to articulate why something gives you an ick. What does that mean? What does having an ick mean? What does feeling a swoon mean to you? Because it's more than just being like that's what will make us good reviewers. That's what makes us good talking about books, is how do you articulate those gut feelings you get from reading something. And if you can't do that, I mean, that's fine. Not everyone has to be able to do that, but it's helpful for proving for standing by what you like and proving to yourself that you know what you like. Because I mean, that's something I always try to do, is you can read spice or romance or sad things and they can make you feel something, but is that all the book is doing? Like this book, we have some intense things that happen in here, but I still felt very hopeful at the end of the book, which is a very interesting thing that Pam Godwin's able to do in a lot of books that she writes, and more so than just an HEA, because there can be a dark romance where they're together and you still feel heavy at the end of the book. But anyway, our most memorable, sorry. I mean, obviously last year, when we had Kerrigan Byrne. But I mean, I honestly think some of the biggest surprises for me, like Proof of Seduction, I did not think I was going to like that book. And the same with last month. Like the books where I'm reading it because we're trying something different. And I'm like, I'll like it. I'm looking for good things. And then it just completely blows me away. So those are more memorable than, the books that I'm pretty sure I'm going to love. Like we did Elisa Clippes. I was 95% sure I was going to love that book. So it wasn't a surprise.
It's always the ones that surprise you. And one of the things that I love about picking books is Jen and I, we take turns, or we don't necessarily even take turns. We both come with suggestions and then we agree on them that way. But it's very interesting because we have such different like things that we're looking for when we're picking a book. Like I kind of am looking for like a different experience, something unusual. Like I want to be surprised, things like that. It doesn't necessarily have to fit into a category of swoony or tropey. Like I'm looking for an experience that's going to be like something different. And a lot of times the things that you're looking for are things that I haven't considered. And I think that makes for such fun and interesting book selections, you know, even though like my least favorite books are the ones that were both like 3 stars. It was fine. I don't really,
Right.
you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because there's not a ton of discussion. Like we think of some of those where, you know, we don't have much to say because we're just like, cool, it was fine. But yeah, someone asked about, I have the 3 colors of it, Simply Sarah. I do have all the covers that's been made. I joined Mystic Box only to get this. Like literally, I started. They gave a hint. They gave a hint that it would be a Pam Godwin, and I was like, I'm on. But this is still the best cover. Hang Lee.
It is.
Hang Lee does. This is good.
I don't know. Like I love getting special editions, but I also like this was actually the book that I read. Like the spine is all creased. This was how I read it.
Yeah.
And I love that, you know, so it's very, very special to me. But
yeah, it definitely is. I mean, I did actually read this one. I can't ever point. I did read that one. I mean, I was listening to the audiobook, but the Mystic Box books like read very nicely. Like they're like a flat lay kind of book. So that worked. Because usually when I'm listening to a book, I'll like have it open if I am, even if I'm doing stuff so that I can like flip through. And I liked that. But
Topaz was such a good one. I really liked that. And Ravishing the Heiress is one of my favorites. That was
also a great discussion. People have some intense feelings for that book.
Yeah, I like the ones where we have a little bit of polarizing opinions, where it's one way or the other. It is always interesting to see how others react and experience the same story.
Yeah.
I think this was this.
It's 2018.
2018.
No, 2020. It wasn't 2020. That was not 2020.
I was going to say 2020, but I don't know.
Was it 20? Dark Notes was 2018. Because that was the first one that I read by her, but this had just come out. Because I read Dark Notes, and then it was like, oh, that author that I love, she just put out a pirate book. What the hell? So it was early 2020 though, because we didn't read it together till October, but I had been talking about it for a long time, which is why.
I remember seeing this going around like the summer of 2020.
Yeah.
And I was watching a lot of historical romance content, and a few people were talking about this, and I'm like, that's a historical, it's huge. Like I was like, what is that? I didn't realize that it was a completely different type.
Oh, right. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, 2020. That's crazy that it was only 2020, because I feel like it's been around forever, but I guess it was my favorite book of 2020, or the top 3. I know I had 3. It was Ian McKenzie, this one, and Takeover. Because the Takeover came out 2020 as well. That was a stiff competition.
Maybe it wasn't in my top 3, but it was in my top books of the year. I think my top 3 for that year were, I don't remember what. I know there was a Sarah McLean and a Heart of Blood and Ashes, and I can't remember the other one.
Yeah, Heart of Blood and Ashes, that was in the top 5 too. Yeah. All right, well.
Shall we get talking about it? Everybody, leave your rating in the comments, and we will talk about it.
Yeah.
Hello.
Especially if you're a noob, especially if this was your first time. I would love to hear.
Yeah, let us know if it was your first read or if it was a reread. So we would love to know that.
You did the audio this time, right? Did you do it last time? Because I think you said you read it physically last time.
Yeah, when I read this, I wasn't reading audios nonstop. Like I was more reading physically. So
I remember too. I mean, I'm not picky, but I remember it took a long time to get through for what I read, and I was like, "Oh, it's okay. I know I read fast. I know I read fast. It's fine."
I mean, I've got. I don't think I will ever get back to that reading speed until like all my kids. And if I was single, I probably would. But
yeah, no, it's all right. And also, I think it was so. Sorry, I'm just remembering this because I know it was so. Like, there's with so many points too, where like we didn't know each other super well yet. So I just remember you like kind of agreeing with stuff I was saying, but also you didn't like it yet. You were kind of like, I'm not gonna get it until it like flipped for you. And then afterwards you were like, I wasn't liking it until this point or whatever. And I was like, oh, I had no idea. Okay. So she was just agreeing with me.
Yeah, I was definitely trying to be polite. And I mean, I feel like that's pretty normal for like a lot of people edit their opinions, especially if they disagree.
100%. Like, no, that's what I'm saying is like, I would absolutely do the same, especially when you're doing like a one-off buddy read with someone or you don't like know them well yet. Like, I even just think of like Jessin was talking to me about a book the other day that like I loved, and she's just kind of like really having feels. And I was like, it's so funny. I love that she's willing to just tell me how she feels about it. But like, I mean it. I want to know what people feel. And I just remember times when there was previously books we disagree on, would be like, it's not working. It's fine.
Yeah, so there's a lot of 5 stars, a lot of first time. So I'm going to highlight your comment, Linda, because I want to talk about this because when I first, so I'm going to read her comment. Linda says 2 stars. Sorry, couldn't handle the violence, couldn't get there. Loved the romance at the end, but didn't like the journey. And when I first read this, I had heard like dark romance, whatever, but I had never read anything on this level. Like the dark romance that I had read before this was like dark romance light with like just bad guys and mafia light, you know. This is a completely different type of dark romance when you do have the violence directly between the love interest and the heroine. Like that's really difficult. And especially if you're coming from, like, I'm using myself as an example, who was just reading a lot of historicals, a lot of like currently published or maybe early 2000s historicals that didn't have anything like this in it, you know, like not even like Bodice Ripper type of thing. So that was what was largely holding me back, is that I went into it expecting a typical historical experience, and it wasn't that at all, you know?
Yeah.
And that's actually why I wanted to put out my TBR video, because I feel like we may have, at least people who watch my videos, I think we have a lot of historical romance readers who don't read dark romance and don't want to, you know? So that's completely valid, very, very fair. It's not an easy read. And there was a point when I first read this, I'm sorry, we're just going to be reminiscing about that first buddy read. But there was a point when I was like that very first scene between Ashley and Bennett, that was where I was like, I don't think I can read this. Like, I just don't think I can. And you were convincing me to keep going, right?
Yeah. I said, read the next scene. Read the next scene. Keep going.
And I trusted her, and I was like, okay. And then I was like, okay, I see what she's trying to do here, and I like it. And I feel like sometimes I think that's what makes, I'm sorry for monologuing, but I think that's what makes, one of the things that makes this book so special for me, and probably a lot of people, is that we typically never see this level ever of violence in a historical romance. And to see that with the heroine, I think it shows so much of Bennett's character, how she responds to that. That's what I think is so powerful about that scene, is Bennett's response to it. But,
yeah. Well, literally that scene is so many things, because it's a turning point, and it's also like, it's a turning point in so many ways, because not only is it, she finally sees like, okay, this is how he really lashes out. This is what he does. There's a connection between us. He's feeling it too. So he's putting me back in my place. She's like, whatever. I already know what my place is. Like, what do you think you're doing? Also, that's the same kind of like forgiveness that he gets from Priest as well. So there's a similarity between Bennett and Priest, how they like let him lash out and kind of like, well, literally like use them for his angsty shit he has going on. And then they're kind of like, did that make you feel better? Like, do you feel better that you did that? I don't know. I mean, it's not a great way to be doing that, using sexual violence to do that. But in the kind of story that we're doing, like, that's what Pam Godwin does. People use their bodies to show that they care. She does that across many books that she writes. But there's just this thing where he's like, this is going to push her away. I'm going to show her how dark that I really can be. And, you know, she won't want to be with me anymore. And instead, she's just like, you know, it's fair. Like, it's not great that you did that, but like, I was going to try to use you that way. So you're not wrong. But also, like, it's not, you know, it's such a weird thing between them, because the thing that he's like punishing her for doing, she was doing. So it's not wrong, but it's also like she was willing to do whatever he wanted. And she's like, you could have just asked, because like, I don't mind picking it up the butt. You could have just asked me. You know, it's like where like he thinks he's making such a statement and she is forgiving of it. And that's what makes it so horrifying what happens to her just a chapter later. Because
and I think
someone else does that to her. So
I think what is so compelling, one thing that is so compelling about that scene is he is so often trying to show his power. Like he's trying to demonstrate that he has power in a way that makes him feel like he's in control. And when she doesn't react how he expects her to, it's almost like then he feels like he can be safe because she's the one who's powerful at that point. When she accepts it and responds in a way that he isn't prepared for, then the power shifts. And I find that so fascinating. Like, I just love it. I mean, obviously, I don't feel like we necessarily need to say this, but this is obviously not a realistic relationship.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
But it's so compelling to see how Pam gives them these motivations and these desires, and she puts them in situations that are meant to be uncomfortable. That is meant to be an uncomfortable scene. There's nothing about that scene that is supposed to be sexy. That comes later. That scene is supposed to be unsettling and uncomfortable, so you can get past all of their barriers and see who they really are, which really reveals intimacy and allows them to start connecting. And I'm getting chills because it's just so impressive to me. Like, I don't know. I mean, like, that's the type of thing that was when I realized, like, I don't have to like the scene. It's meant to be uncomfortable. It's not meant for me to like it.
Yeah.
But it shows you things about the characters that you wouldn't see without that.
Yeah. That's really something with dark romance done well, by the way. I'll put the caveat, when it's done well, what it's able to do, because it's like, you could do the worst thing you could do to someone's body, but if they, you know, will still accept you for that, like, that's a bigger love than you could find anywhere else. You know, like, it's, again, it's not a realistic relationship or a healthy one. It only works within this story that's built. And it also, when you have Bennett, who's had like the worst things happen to her already, when someone's trying to threaten her with this, well, specifically like one-on-one with him, when like he's threatening her with it to get power, she's like, you're not going to get power with me that way, because like you're doing the same thing that like I'm doing. Like, that's kind of what it is it's like, I'm trying to manipulate you with my body and you're trying to do the same thing to me. And it is only when like she gets in the hands of someone else who they're not playing a power game, they just want to use her body like a commodity, that's the real tragedy. So to me, like, that's why, I mean, honestly, for me, people don't have to get it or agree or find it comfortable or like it. Like, it's not the book for you if it doesn't work. Where I think people like miss it, if their singular reason for not liking it is what Ashley does to her, that's when I'm kind of like, okay, we just weren't going on the same journey. Because there's supposed to be this stark difference between he assaults her anally, right there, she forgives him. Then she gets taken and gets raped for days. Both are an assault, a rape, they are a violation. But the difference is, like, in how it affects her is based on, like, what was happening between them, right? Like, does that make sense? It's so hard to, it's both an assault, but, like, one, she's willing to let him do that so that they can get, like, okay, you did that now. Did it work? Do you feel like you have power over me? No, actually now I do, because now you're trying to make it up to me. I don't know. It's just so, only Pam Godwin does this, you guys. Like, seriously, I'm not joking. Show me someone else who writes like this, people. Show me someone else who does. Like, especially if anyone's read anything in the Deliver series. If you read anything in the Deliver series or you read Dark Notes, like, she does this again and again.
I mean, that's why I talk about her so often, and that's why I am very hesitant to say that I love dark romance, because I love Pam Godwin, and there are no other writers writing dark romance like her. Nobody plays with all of the different levels of power and everything like that. Like
my beloved fans are bringing it up. I promised I wouldn't talk about Carter in this, so don't make me a liar. Don't talk about him. Come on. I promise. I literally said I won't talk about Carter Mahoney in this video. So we're not talking about him. Yes, also that happens in that. I think also, let's put it this way too. This is a historical romance, but this does have an element of fantasy to it. As we said, this isn't real, and not just because of the weird sexual power dynamics happening. This story just has an element of fantasy anyway, even though like there is no like magic. There's that kind of vibe, so it's also easier to suspend disbelief for me. And not that I don't do that in historical romances other times. Absolutely, I do. But with this one being a pirate romance, we're on the high seas, we're on a treasure hunt. It just has a bit of element of fantasy. So I'm willing to let it kind of do that for me.
I mean, and that's what fiction is. Every piece of fiction is inviting you to suspend your disbelief. It all depends on how you personally are you personally going to be able to do that or not, you know? And if
that's totally fine.
If you're not, like, that's okay. I wanted to show some of the comments.
Yeah, let's share it, because some people have some valid things. Because I think, and it one more thought on like Pam Godwin, like, she may not be for you. Like, I think that's a great thing to say, Lexi. She may not be for you, because if this makes you uncomfortable, if the other ones did, like she does, sex is used as manipulation, as tool, as punishment, as pleasure in all of her books.
Yeah.
So if you don't like the dynamic that makes you uncomfortable, that is perfectly valid, because I haven't read one of her books that doesn't have sexual assault used in it, and usually between the couple at some point, whether accidental or purposeful, or like everybody's been assaulted in her book. I'm not saying that's right, but the way she uses it, I never feel like it's gratuitous, even though she does it in every book. I know it's like she does it in every book, but for me, the story she's telling and the way she's using it, she does. I do have a question for you. Sorry, I know we're supposed to look at theirs. Something that I know is very important to you. Yeah. Okay. Something that is very important to you is how people's trauma is handled. How do you feel about Bennett? Do you think she suffers her trauma enough?
Yeah, that's a pretty common complaint of mine. I feel like it
really is. It's a good one.
I do feel like her trauma was handled very well, and honestly, I feel like every single character Pam writes has so much trauma, and I always feel like you can just feel the weight of how that has impacted their life. And I think that the way that she does that isn't just in telling you about how their life has changed or how their outlook has changed. Like maybe a lesser author would do that, where they would tell you this is, things that have changed in their life because of what happened to them, or and she never does that. But there's every single piece of line of prose, every setting, every description, and she's not an overly descriptive writer. Like her brutal scenes are brutal, and they're very succinct, and they're very brief.
Right.
She doesn't dwell in that violence for very long, but she hits you with it when it's there.
Yeah.
So I feel like she is such a immersive writer that she doesn't really have to do a lot of telling you about how that trauma has affected the character, because you're seeing it in every single part of their life on the page. Yeah. And I think that's why it works for me so well, is because you can feel it in their interactions with people. You can feel it in even just the situations that they find themselves in. So she's basically that very basic writing rule. She's showing you how this character has been shaped by what's happened to them. And it never feels gratuitous to me. Even in some of the books in Deliver, like I'm thinking very specifically of one that I really love. I think it's the last one that I read.
Yeah.
There is some very interesting violence in that book, or abuse, that I think could very easily be read as gratuitous, but I don't feel like it is. I don't
He's
feel
one
like
of
it
the
is.
evilest men that gets an AGA in my opinion. Literally one of the most evil men that I've read that gets an AGA. And I'm like, I believe it.
Justin,
Yes.
I love this comment so much. Did you see? I don't know how many of you watching saw the interview. There's an interview on Jen's channel that she did, and I was able to be there, which was really, really cool, where Pam talks about her writing journey and how she started. She has like a horror series, right? That's her. Is that her first series?
Yeah,
But
it's an apocalypse horror. Yeah.
Yeah. There's romance in it, but it's not a romance.
The last book is a romance. So
the last book is okay. Yeah, I think that, and I think that okay, so I'm gonna keep going. I think that this comment, Justin, is what makes the distinction for me between great dark romance and something that has dark elements that is maybe written in more of a entertaining type of way. And I think that's what horror books do. Like great horror books, they help you sort of see how horrifying things can happen to people and not let that like live in your brain, or you can like disassociate from that. And I think that's exactly what Pam Godwin is doing here, but I think it makes it even more powerful because you get an HEA at the end, which I absolutely love. So
Yep. I feel like I missed a couple back. I like how Justin also said like the writing style keeps you on edge the whole time.
Oh yeah.
Like, so I know that some people felt this, so this isn't me making a jive at it, but I honestly was not dull for a single second in this book. I feel like the pacing is very well done. Like each scene is leading into the next scene, in my opinion. I know I do agree the first like 4 chapters where we're in the past, I thought that was only a prologue. That was the past. I forgot.
I did too.
So I literally was like, oh my God, I don't care about her mom and dad. Like, I know I should, but I don't. So if that's what people meant that the beginning was slow about their parents, I get it. But it was only 3 chapters. And then we're like, Priest is there trying to get her back. And I was going to comment this, like, how did you like the audiobook? Because Roxy Isles does some really good Scottish accents.
She really did. I was very, very impressed. Like when I got the audiobook, I could have sworn that you said that there were male narrators, so I was really surprised that it was just so. But yeah, she did a great job.
No, she does so good. Oh my word, it was so alive to me. Yeah. And I think it is interesting how Crystal said it's like not gratuitous with it, because I remember too, like her assaults being like so visceral, but it really is for me. I forgot, like it wasn't the rape in the hold, because she does like blend that together. Like she does it where she's like, it just happened again and again. It is the thing at the end, because I think Stacy said like that brought it down for her was like the plank when she's being beaten. I blacked out a lot of that. Did not remember that happened for like with the red beard fuck just like beating the shit out of her the whole time. I was like,
I have missed so many comments. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
I know, it's okay. Where people like she was just being beat. That one was tough. Yeah. That one was really tough at the end. You just want it to stop because she's just it's so much. Like that's the worst assault for me. Like none of the sexual ones are as bad as that one.
Yeah.
And also because Bennett is able in a way to like shrug off the assaults. Like I know it's bad, but it's so weird because it shouldn't be this. But we also read this in certain historicals a lot. Like she just kind of knows that's always a danger for her being a pirate woman out there. Like that's why having a crew that she trusts and being like who she is so important, is because, you know, there aren't women on the sea. So anytime she gets caught, that is always going to be what's going to happen. So she's kind of always prepared for it. And it's a fact. It's her fact for her. But where this like brutal beating where it's like breaking your fingers and your legs and everything is like, You know, it's, yeah. But thankful for a smart husband who makes them think she has syphilis. So she's away from that at least. That is one of the best scenes. Okay, we gotta
It
move on.
is. It's so good. Rhea, don't feel bad. I mean, honestly, that's completely fine. And I've been wanting to do a video for so long, and I think I'm about ready to film it about people feeling bad about having a different opinion from maybe what a lot of people have about a book in their reviews, and they're unwilling. Like, I hear that so often specifically when I speak out about a book that everybody else loves that I didn't.
Yep.
I hear a lot of people say that they're worried or they're nervous, and like, your opinions are valid. Even if you just said I didn't like it and you left it at that, that's totally fine. You know. Anyway, I didn't mean to just.
I mean, and we also knew, like, Crystal and I knew we love this book, guys. Like, you don't feel bad you don't agree, but like, this is just, it's each of ours, one of our favorite books. It does not have to be your favorite book, so that's really fine. But like, it's one of my favorite books ever, and I'm not gonna like apologize that it's my favorite. Also, what Crystal said, I think it's just something with the longer you talk about books in public too, it's just a thing. Like, I feel bad if I don't like Crystal's favorite book. And not because I should feel bad, but like, I talk about her favorite book. I feel bad if I don't like Jessen's favorite book. But anyone else, I'm just kind of like, well, we're not going to have the same taste. So would I message Crystal and say, that book, I effing hated it, bitch. Why did you recommend it to me? I'm not going to do that to her. But if I don't like a book that other people are liking, I'm going to talk about it on my channel and say that I don't like it, and then whatever. Like, you don't have to like it.
And I also feel like it's, you know, I don't mean to have this take over the conversation, but like, you're never going to have the same taste as everybody else. You know, like, Jen and I agree on a lot of books, but we also disagree on a lot of books, and that's totally fine. And we're still best buddies. You know?
Yeah. Perfect thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Let's we've done enough like of the overall stuff, because I want to talk about some of the people and some of the relationship dynamics, because this is, I still, upon reread, I'm kind of like, I wish I knew how this was working out a little better.
Yeah.
Long-term goal. But this time around, I very specifically, because who was it recently? Oh, it was my friend Tara. My friend Tara recently read this one, and she was kind of like, well, what happened to this priest guy? Like, am I gonna, because she feels like he was gone too long, which is something I felt maybe the first or second time that I read it as well. And so this time around, I was like, I'm really going to pay attention to this and see if I feel like there's enough of priest in this for me, because it is usually Ashley and Bennett that I'm swooning over, because we do see a lot between them. But I don't know, for me on this reread, again, part of it is the audiobook is so good. I was just so into Priest like right away. And the way he's performed by Roxy Isles, he's so passionate about like, I've wasted enough time. You've been punishing me for something. I can't fucking tell you what's going on, but like, I am gonna get you back. It's happening now. It's happening. And like, I don't know. I feel like, of course, I want more of him, but I also feel like his presence is so there for me that when he comes back, I'm just kind of like, oh, he's finally here. And then he just he literally makes it click, because not only does he explain so much about Ashley that Bennett's kind of like, oh, this is a piece I didn't understand. There was parts of him I didn't understand, and now you've just made me get it. But he also is so accepting of priests that it almost makes Bennett be like, yeah, this is why, like, I'm accepting with him. I don't know. So how do people feel about this?
I do feel like the first time I read it, I did feel like I wanted more of him on the page. So I didn't really, I mean, that didn't really figure into my rating or anything, but once you mentioned it, I was like, yeah, the first time I read that, I definitely felt like I wanted more of him. But this time, I definitely, because I knew how it was going to end, and because I knew the reason behind everything, it wasn't either apparent or enough to bother me, you know? So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also think, knowing it is also helpful. Also, because I didn't know this was gonna be polyamorous at the end. I thought like, oh, I'm supposed to be on like team Ashley, you know, like
Yeah,
or
that's how I
oh,
felt too.
she's gonna have this whirlwind with him, and like I was like maybe Ashley's gonna die so that they can be together at the end. Like I had no
Yeah.
idea, so I didn't know how much I was supposed to love Priest, but I don't know. Upon this, and especially knowing like what Priest has been through, like for reals, like knowing what Priest has been through, because honestly, like he went to see Ashley, but now that we know about their sexual dynamic, he didn't necessarily go to consent to cheat on his wife.
Yeah.
Because what does Ashley do? We learn Ashley fucks him and leaves. And he doesn't
Mhm.
always ask first. So it's not that he couldn't have probably gotten out of that, but also I just feel differently about him because I know that he's had this like tragic love and he's been continually left by the man he's loved. And then the man that he loves fucks it up for the woman that he loves, and now he's just been left. So like I just really love Priest a lot, and his long suffering for his two lovers who just neither of them can like give him a break. And so I just have like a much more like soft spot for him in my like general feeling about this book is that Priest is the one who makes it work. Like Priest is the reason that it can work.
Yeah,
And
I think that's very true.
that's when polyamory works for me anyway. Like I know I read a lot more of this than you do. It's something I love. But what is always important to me is I need every person to be important. And that's specifically hard when you have an established married couple because it's like, what was wrong with that married couple?
Mhm.
But what we don't know is that, well, actually, Ashley is was first. Um, so I don't know. For me, Pam can make that work because I fully believe that like it's very unstable unless there's a third leg to the table, as it were, because Bennett and Ashley would just always end up in this, and Priest will always, or I mean, Ashley will always jerk Priest around, and Bennett's like, I'm gonna fucking kill that girl if you get married because I'm still a pirate. Arr, like I'll kill her. Like it's also because nobody's good in this. They are
Yeah.
all morally gray people. They don't have to be good people. You know, like I'm not expecting high standards out of anyone in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
nobody's good. So
So, Lexi, it's okay if you don't want to, but for those of you who didn't like it, for if your reasons are outside of the violence, I'm really curious to know what didn't work for you. Not for, I mean, I just honestly would be very curious to know what it was. And I think, was it Lexi? Lexi did say that she didn't love Ashley and she
yeah,
couldn't love Priest because he wasn't there. Yeah,
yeah,
that's fair.
yeah,
So I mean, like Jen and I obviously love this book, but if you didn't, that's totally okay.
yeah.
But if you feel comfortable, like let us know. I'm really curious to know what happened. So keep
That's
going, Jen.
no, no. I was reading the
Oh,
why
I
does
just
he
saw it.
want it to be a marriage? Well, it's because he wants everybody equally to have a say, in my opinion. He's like, I don't want this to be like I'm on the outside of the marriage and you to ever like I feel like he doesn't want like Priest to ever say like, well, she's my wife, or
Yeah,
he's just foreseeing things. He's foreseeing things like we're gonna be where we all make the decision together and not you guys be able to pull that on me or me be able to walk away because I'm like, well, you two are married, I'm not. Like that's
yeah,
what I took from it because he's like, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna say it like we're married and
yeah.
um,
That's how I took that too. I read that fully as just a a visual or a tactile way to show commitment between all three for everyone. But
yeah, yeah,
and again, that's where the fantasy element comes in, right? Because would pirates really
right,
require marriage like
yeah,
that? But
yeah. Well, and I mean, Priest and Ashley couldn't have ever been together either. They'd be
yeah,
dead. So
yeah,
I mean, their love was always a fantasy for them in that
yeah,
regard. So didn't want to be the third sort of outside. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. What else? Okay, so oh man, there's so much in this. There's so much in this. Trying to think. what are some other good angles to come out. I also was going to prepare questions beforehand, and I didn't. I just was like, about it.
Tanya said that she didn't see the poly. I totally did not see the poly relationship coming. I mean, this book was talked about, but that secret was very locked up, and so like I didn't have spoilers or anything, and I was like, what? And you know, I definitely typically prefer my romances to be 2.
Yeah.
And this was one that actually really super worked for me. So I really liked it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it helped that people, because nobody in 2020 like ruined that. I mean, now I tell people it is because that will sell it to some people that it is.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, that's, and I mean, I think it like works because like you like love triangles. So I think you were like, oh, there's a love triangle. Who's she going to pick? And then I was like, she's not going to pick anybody.
I do love a good love triangle. My early 2000s reading self will never get rid of that. But it felt a little long. I was ready to start wrapping up after the end. Okay. Struggled to feel the emotional.
The treasure. Gotta get the treasure, Stacy. Gotta get the treasure. Oh, yeah. I'm glad. I mean, I love, that's the thing I figured is I was like, I think a lot of people knew that it is, but some people still don't. Because some people, there's plenty of people who don't know secrets of, like the Teresa Medeiros that I read that is 35 years old, and people had no idea there's a secret at the end of that. And I was like, what? And all the reviews, like nobody in the reviews was saying it too. Because like I read a couple reviews, because if I'm going to read a book from like 1993, I would like to know a little bit of the things. And I had no idea. There's a surprise.
Yeah. So.
But obviously not legal. Yeah.
I didn't know that. I truly don't read poly romances very often.
Yeah.
Linda knew about it. Okay. I hate love. Most people do, Ashley. Most people hate love triangles. I know. I'm weird.
This is me. I loved when I discovered poly romance because I didn't know that was a thing. And one time I read a love triangle and they stayed together. I'm like, this is a thing.
I love the angst. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I love the angst of a love triangle.
I want them together.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's I'm so happy that so many of you picked up on that. Justin, I am especially thrilled that you picked up on the horror element of it because I know that you read thrillers and stuff, and that makes me so happy.
She puts you right into it. Even the simple things, like the very first interaction, first her getting thrown in the hold and like him getting her right at the last minute. And then she's like, you did that on purpose? And he's like, yeah, because you need to know that it's a privilege to be in my rooms. And don't fuck with me. And then what does he do? He ties her up and throws her off the back of the boat and is like, have fun down there. And then like he does all these messed up things to show her the power. And she's like, but he's still attracted to me. So I still have a little bit of power left. Like his dick's still getting hard. There's the magic. I can do something with this. Like that's what I love about Bennett, man. She just is like, I gotta be ruthless. She's gotta be ruthless to stay alive. So
the funny thing about this, I'm gonna use this comment to tell. So obviously Jen is the one who got me to read this book, but I think it was probably like a year and a half ago. Samantha from Books with Samantha, she and I did like a reading vlog where we picked books for each other. And I specifically picked Sea of Ruin for her because I knew she liked love triangles and poly. And I told her it was a love triangle, and her reaction when she realized it was a poly was like one of my favorite moments ever.
Yes, like, it was so great. I remember it because I was like, oh, that was a great one to pick for her.
I know.
Because she's like, oh, I don't know which one I want. And then when you're like, wait, they did both?
Yeah.
But I do not typically enjoy RH. Yeah.
I still have never read an RH, and I don't know that I ever will. I guess they're called.
I've only liked a couple.
Monica, I've noticed that you are very good at picking up plot threads. I really, really like that. You did that I think you commented on my video about Pretty Girls that you saw, and I was just like, what? Monica. I'm curious. Monica, have you read The Silent Patient? Did you figure that one out? You got to tell me. We can carry on with Sea of Ruin, but I want to know if you've read that. Because that one shook me.
Monica, you should try her Blood of Eve trilogy then, if you like horror, because it's very well written. It's very well written.
I would love to read that, but it's not an audio, only like the short one is.
Yeah.
And there's too many physical books for me to read. But I do want to get to that. I personally, I like horror when it's stuff like that. Like, I don't like horror that's about like people being horrified.
Yeah, that one has body horror in it. Yep.
Well, if you're ever in the mood for a thriller, Monica, I would really recommend that one. I'd be very curious to know what you think about it.
So how about some of our side characters? How about our multiple villains? How awful they are. What's crazy with Pam is, you know, often her heroes can be pretty bad, so your villains have to be awful. And again, if you read the Deliver series, every villain basically gets an HEA in that one too. So if there's someone you think is too evil, watch out. The next book is going to be his, but not with this one. the rapist pirate is we get
that
is horrifying. By the way,
I felt like that, like, not to just keep gushing. I mean, that's what we're gonna do, but like, I felt like that was such a clever spot to put that. I like that horrifying scene with the pirate who, you know, I just thought that was that created so much empathy, and it really showed the disparity between what happened with Ashley and then what happened when someone actually took her.
Because he gave her a lot of like dignity in her imprisonment. Granted, you know, the pirate wasn't getting that, so that's probably, you know, he's a little bit, you know, but I mean, even for the degrading things he does, there's an element that Bennett likes it because it obviously has some BDSM elements that are going into it, even if it's not called that. That's what's happening. She doesn't mind submitting to him for those things, and why the things he does to humiliate her just end up like turning her on, and so it doesn't really work for him, which is why I love that. I kind of love that it's like, oh, he's trying to do these things and she's like, it's working for me actually. But yeah, when they also this has such a good like mid-book grovel. Like, it's not an end book grovel, it's a mid-book grovel, because it's like, you know, he's trying to follow the rules to a certain degree so that he can, you know, help her in a legal kind of way. And when he's able to like get her back, blows up his career, loses his ship, all this stuff, and then they're trapped alone on this island where they're coming for it, and he's just like, but you're okay. Like, that's all he cares about. And I'm just like, instantly wiped all the upset away. You just blew it all up. Oh, the onion. Oh.
Yeah. It was awful.
Yeah.
I do feel like, oh gosh, I know, like that's such a, again, like that's such a clever use of her writing, because that just adds one more element to the horror. And it just like, gosh, I just like, the more that I think about her books, instead of, not that there's a dang thing wrong with reading it for entertainment value, but the more that you sit and think about how she has constructed this and how every single thing that she has put in here is deliberate to make you feel a certain way, it's just like, it's such a masterpiece, you know? I mean, I feel like Pam Godwin gets a lot of credit for being very hot. Like, I had to search for the word hot. I don't know why. Right. And she is, like, she definitely is. And she really does a great job of exploring sexual, like different types of sexual things. But the thing that always gets me is her attention to detail in a way that is not obvious. It's very, very subtle. And everything comes into play later on. You know, every detail that she's adding is another revelation into who this character is, or it's another like tactile moment to help you viscerally feel what's happening in here.
I was also going to comment on that, about the like spice level. I would actually like to say the heat level is very high. But this doesn't actually have like as much spice as you'd think it does. It's the way she writes the chemistry. It feels like they're just bubbling with sexual chemistry all the time.
Oh yeah.
Actual sex scenes, there's like 3. Really? Yeah. I mean,
which is probably another reason why I love this so much, because the sexual tension is so high. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No. No, I'm agreeing with you, because I was reading this and I was like, oh, this is the actual time that sex happens. Mm-hmm. And we're like at a certain point of the book, and then there isn't anything else until they're at the house together.
Yeah.
Because I don't, there's him like fucking with her a lot, but they're not doing anything, like it's them like manipulating each other. And then there's actually have a connection, but then she does the whole thing of like, we were just going at it for a couple of days. And, like she's not like, if the sex scene isn't moving it forward, Pam doesn't put it in there, which is why, like, when I read a book like Dark Notes, which has a lot more of that in there, but every one of those scenes is doing something, not to talk about Dark Notes, but there's a full journey that Ivory is going on. Why? And that's why there's so much sex in that one, is because he is showing her stuff about herself while they're having sex. Where in this one, there's a lot of using your bodies and using your chemistry to manipulate, but they're not just like having sex all the time. That's not what's happening. But it feels like a very hot book.
And I think, too, something that adds to that is how many moments there are where she's presenting these characters with, like, she's peeling back a layer to allowing them to have this intimacy in a very specific situation that she's put them in. Like, it's orchestrated. Like, I can't get over how much of this book is so cleverly manipulated to put you in this exact situation so that these feelings can be felt. But it never, ever feels forced. It never feels like, well, they need to have sex now, or, oh, this violence needs to happen now. It's just a very organic unveiling of the story in such a clever way. It's just fantastic.
Oh, I'm at 45%. Time to insert slot A or tab A into slot B. Like, that's not what's happening. So, yeah, she does it very well. But yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Nope. I was just going to say, it's perfect to me, everybody. I don't have things to critique about this book. I haven't found things to critique in 2.5 years. I'm not going to start now. So
I have zero critiques. I truly feel like this is a masterpiece. And I haven't read all of her books like you have, but I've read quite a few of them. And I personally feel like this is so different from Dark Notes, but they're both equally masterpieces. And I feel like Dark Notes is quite a bit darker than this one.
Yes.
Would you agree with that?
I would, because of the agency of the heroine. Dark Notes, she has none. That whole book is about her getting agency, whereas Bennett has it, and we watch her have it through all these horrible situations. She always has some kind of it, whether it's just in her mind and her heart. She is free always, and Ivory is not until Emmerich helps her get it. So that's my opinion. Two completely opposite women who, like, oh, so great. But
so
Dark Notes for me is darker because of like the despair, whereas like Bennett, even when she's in these awful scenarios, like there's never despair.
Yeah, because of who she is, because of her character, exactly.
Yeah, like
there's this this fire in her that is never, ever, ever dampened at all, no matter what happens. And I think that a lot of times that type of a heroine comes off as very unrealistic, but it didn't feel that way at all with Bennett. She felt like just this fire of a woman that nothing was going to stop her, or I don't know. Whereas I feel like
she's fully rounded though too. Like she has flaws. Like she's stubborn. Her pride, it keeps her from her love for a year. Like it makes her make rash decisions that like puts them in a weak spot. Like she makes she makes mistakes. So I believe her as a 3-dimensional person. She's not just, I am strong feminist pirate and I can defeat anything. It's like, well, no, but it's the inner stuff that's doing it. It's not because she's able to. She can't physically overpower 50 pirates who are going to do something horrible to her. But
and I think like her ability to accept the situation that she's in,
right,
and be able to move on from that too. I think that is such a strength that
that she trusts people.
Yes.
Oh, that is such a thing I don't like about heroines, when they have to do everything themselves. But like this scenario where Ashley and her are being held in that room and Priest is working his side of it and she's like, what is he doing? They're going to rape me and kill us. Like, what's he doing? And he's just like, lay down on the bed. I'm going to do this. Like, because she's willing to like trust even when she's in this like horrifying situation. She trusts her crew. She trusts that they will comfort her and it will work. And that's how she's able to not give up. If she only ever trusted herself, if she was a one woman against everything, then she wouldn't make it through those. Like, her mind would be broken by the time they got there then. So he's still going. Okay.
Yeah. My family just came home, so he's probably going to be loud for a minute.
Okay.
We probably need to end, if that's okay with you.
Yes. But yeah, so I mean, thank you everyone for reading our favorite book with us. And we will have next month for December, the last of the year, we'll be doing The Bride's Necklace by Kat Martin. Ooh. I'll post this on my Instagram soon. It'll be in the Discord as well. Literally don't know anything about this one, guys. I hope it's good. We want to do a Kat Martin, and I have this whole series. So yeah, that'll be the next one. We will let you know what the first half of 2023 books will be soon. We're going to figure that out shortly. So thanks for hanging out with us.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. And we're just going to say goodbye. I'm sorry, Kazi ruined everything. Thanks,
bye, everybody. Friends.